Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, brought to you by the Draft Professor. The Draft Professor is a group of podcasters bringing you daily draft podcasts and is home to the only dynamic mock draft simulator which allows fans to mock draft against other fans. The Draft Professor Simulator features a first-round challenge, 5 unique one-round drafts. The Draft Professor Simulator features a second-round challenge, 10 unique 2-round drafts. All mock drafts are always picking against the fans and draft analysts which use the simulator. Every mock, every pick, every time. The Draft Professor also features ranked players functionality, where you can rank your favorite players at every position. Optionally, you can add tiers to your rankings to show what round you have the players graded in. The Draft Professor also features Draft a Team functionality, which allows users to snake draft a team of 22 players to demonstrate your my guys, compare player strengths, and discuss draft prospects in a way no other mock draft simulator can. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This episode will begin shortly. Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This is the Monday night edition with Jake and Josh. It feels like it's been a while since I've seen you both, but I think it was only 7 days ago.
Yeah. I was out last week, but I definitely said I was missing it. But I'm back in the saddle again, and ready to ride tonight for sure.
Yeah, this should be a good one because we're going to be doing corners, and the boards are the same players are listed, but they're in very different orders. So this should be high quality NFL draft entertainment coming at you. Bill, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So I guess we should probably start this by, Jake, when you evaluate a corner, is there something that you like or something that a corner that plays a certain way that you're drawn to?
It's closing the separation. That's the biggest thing for me. You have to have that athleticism for when you do make those mistakes from time to time. And then you have to be in the run game as well. I know it's not talked about near enough. If you are just washed out in the run game every single play, it's hard to see an NFL football field, and it doesn't fly like it would in college. So that's probably the biggest things for me. But this draft is so unique. It might not be the best corner group I've ever covered, but it has the cup of tea for everybody and what they're looking for. It's got some cover 3, cover 4, cover 2s, the press mans, the off balls. It's got a lot of different things throughout the draft to where you can go, hey, I'm looking for a press man corner. You might be able to find one in the 4th to 5th round, where traditionally that might be a little bit harder to do on year-to-year basis. But I think when it comes down to it, this is a decent depth quarterback class, in my opinion, with some really high-end talent at the top. That's how I see it. But, yeah, that's basically how I do my evaluations.
Good. Josh, how about you? When you look at a corner, what's important to you?
So it's a balance between multiple things. I mean, corners have to have the obvious coverage ability, instincts, the athletic ability, whole 9 yards. That's just the minimum to translate to the NFL level. But I'm with Jake. Separators for me are how they play the run defense. And for me, how they're able to carry size and speed at the same time. You're going to find a lot of long, lengthy corners. You're going to find a lot of small, fast corners. But being 195, 200 plus, and being able to carry that speed and not lose any athletic ability, hip fluidity, etc., those are a couple things that separates it for me. But I'm right with Jake. This is a class that has a couple guys that are going to be highlight guys in the top 15 picks. You're going to have a group go end the first round, middle of second round. But once you get into 3 and 4, it's going to be really interesting to see which teams pick which corners, because it's going to be more scheme based on who they pick more than anything. It's that type of draft class where they're going to be more scheme specific on who they draft in the mid rounds.
Okay, so you both have the same 2 guys at the top. So Jake, what do you like about Travis Hunter, the cornerback?
Travis Hunter is the only blue chip prospect that we'll be talking about today under my board. The next guy we'll talk about is pretty close, but I have him as more of a red chip than a blue chip. But what Travis Hunter offers you is obviously the versatility. I don't care if you're looking at him as a wide receiver, a corner, or both. He's very versatile in what he's bringing to you. Good size. Maybe could add a little bit more muscle to that frame as well. And maybe focusing on one position more at the next level. I'm not going to say he's not going to play both of them. But if he's focusing solely on quarter, what we're covering tonight, he could be elite very early on into his NFL career and would be worthy of the 101. Will he go there? More than likely not, especially with the Titans picking there. I don't think it's going to happen. He might fall to 3 or 4, and I think the Giants, the New England Patriots could be getting the steal of the draft at that point in time. But what he offers you is I don't think he is amazing in press. I think it might go overlooked a little bit. I think he can improve on that, right? But what he does off ball and what he does is diagnosing out of zone specifically, I think is elite and second to none in this class. But definitely somebody's going to be very happy with it that they get out of Travis Hunter in his NFL career.
And Josh, is there anything that you want to share about Travis Hunter, the corner, that you have him at number 1?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the strengths of this guy all day for days on both sides of the ball, but we've been covering that the whole time. Some things I'll hit on. Like Jake alluded to, this isn't going to be the elite of elite press man corners in this class, but one thing that I do love about Travis Hunter is if he gets beat on a press man route, he's right back on the ball. He's ready to give it 100% effort. You'll never have to question the toughness or the character of this guy on your football team. He could add more functional play strength, but that doesn't take away from his diagnosis in the run game and his effort in the run game as well. Those are two things when you're talking about Travis Hunter being a top 10 pick at cornerback, those weaknesses and being able to really bounce back for them and having a one-play mindset is something that's really interesting for me. So instead of saying he's just a wide receiver prospect or, hey, he's just a cornerback prospect, he has the mentality to play both, but his cornerback prospect sheet alone would be the cornerback one in this class for those reasons.
Okay, and Josh, you have Will Johnson with a blue chip grade. So you have a true first-round grade on Will Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, the Will Johnson conversation's been interesting because he was the top of the top, cream of the crop when we started this whole process. A little bit of a down year when we're talking about consistency and man coverage, but then he got injured and everybody's kind of starting to drag Will Johnson down the board a little bit. You turn on that 2023 tape, you make a legitimate argument that they don't win the national championship if he's not anchoring that side of the field. It's his fluidity, his speed, his strength, his ability to match up in man and zone coverage. He locked down Roma Dunze in the national championship. Now, that's not the end-all, be-all. There's still things he needs to work on with his consistency and obviously his health. But when you're talking about the peaks of a cornerback prospect, Will Johnson is challenging Travis Hunter with an all-around game in that aspect. If you turn on last year's tape, but he's going to get pushed down the board a little bit. It's still a really, really damn good corner prospect in my eyes.
Okay, and Jake, you have Will Johnson as number 2, but you said you did not have a first-round grade on him, right?
No, he's certainly a first-round grade. He's not a blue chip for me.
Thank you.
He's a red chip, so he's got blue chip talent, but maybe not blue chip traits. He's not a hyper athlete. He doesn't have that makeup speed that a Travis Hunter might have or possess. What he does in zone is absolutely amazing. This is a guy you're not going to be playing a whole lot in man coverage, though. And that does kind of take away that versatility of it. But the best eyes, some of the best feet in this class. What he does in the short area is absolutely stunning. And it's very unfortunate what happened with the injury this season, because if he did the same thing he did 2 years ago, this previous season, we'd be talking about him as a guy that could be going in the top 3 potentially, just based off what he's done. And maybe he can get back to that. Regardless, this is a very good zone defender that could still learn a little bit of the intricacies of the game, but I think he's a pro's pro coming out of that Harbaugh system and then having this last season. This is a guy that could probably improve as a tackler a little bit. I want to see him get a little bit more dirty. I don't see that dog that I'm looking for a lot of the times, but it does come out in spurts. So I know it's there. It's just getting him in the right scheme that can allow him to flourish. But yes, it's solidly a first-round grade, probably a top 10 grade, just not blue chip talent for me.
Got it. I misunderstood what the term red chip meant. So, Jake, you have Azare Thomas from Florida State at number 3. Is this a first-round grade, and what do you like about Thomas?
Yeah, basically, I can kind of cover it. My 3 and 4 with Ravel, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, are first-round grades for me, and then it drops into the second round. But Azare, oh my God, I love this cat. He is so good. And I remember our first 32 GM mock draft that we did. I think I drafted him at like pick 17, and everybody was shitting on poo-pooing in the draft room that, hey, that's way too high. Way too high. And now I'm watching as we progress through this draft season. They're like, this guy could go to the Falcons at 14 or 15. It's like, I see this all the time now. Azare, what he does in press man is absolutely amazing. I think he has plenty of makeup speed. He's just on an unfortunate team this past season that wasn't very good. But what he was doing out there can shut down wide receiver ones at the next level, I believe. And I flirted with the idea of moving him over Will Johnson. I'm not quite there just because of what happened in 2023 with Will Johnson. But I think you are getting an absolute stud in Azare. I think he is going to be dynamic at the next level, and I believe he will be a first-round pick.
Okay, and Josh, your cornerback 3 is Jahdae Barron from Texas. So what do you like about Barron that you have a first-round grade on?
Now, I see on both of our boards that he has Barron at CB11. I have him at CB3. That is perfectly fine. It's just based off of preference and what you're looking for in a CB prospect. I have him more as a nickel, but think more of the Brian Branch role for Jahdae Barron. Is he as strong as a run supporter? No, but he makes up for it with his ability to cover that much better than Brian Branch, in my opinion. This isn't going to be a press man corner. This isn't going to be a guy you line up to jam people at the line of scrimmage. But when you're talking about off-man coverage, zone coverage, ball skills, IQ, diagnosing, fitting run supports, he has it all. He's a shorter, compact build. Just think that Brian Branch role when you're thinking Jahdae Barron, and some teams are going to value more of the long, athletic corners. That's perfectly fine with me. But give me a damn good football player that I can line up on many spots of the field. I think that versatility really separates Jahdae Barron apart from these other cornerback prospects. But they're really good in their own rights.
Okay. And then, Josh, you have Trey Amos also with a true first-round grade.
Yeah, I just posted something on Trey Amos a couple minutes ago, but I went back on his film recently just to see if I didn't turn any unstone corners. Is this going to be the high elite upside guy at corner? No, he's limited to who he is, but I think this is the most well-rounded cornerback in this class. He makes up for it in toughness, IQ, discipline. I like to call it controlled aggression at the line of scrimmage. You saw it at the Alabama tape. It's transferred over to the Ole Miss tape, and you started to see the ball skills and production really take a step up this year for Trey Amos. I like his build. I like the way he plays the game at the line of scrimmage, and I think he can hold up in zone coverage as well. So I have Trey Amos right there as my 26th ranked prospect. So if he goes to that Green Bay range or some team at like 25, 26, the Rams come to mind for a team that needs a cornerback, don't be surprised that Trey Amos is one of the guys that go off the board.
Yeah, so that's the Bills Mafia target.
Mm-hmm.
If Bills Twitter is like flies on shit with Amos. Like, Amos has to be a Bill. Now, keep in mind, Bills Mafia was also like that with Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
And Jack Campbell is not a Buffalo Bill right now. So don't use Bills Mafia to predict the draft. But right now, like every Bills podcaster known to man is basically saying it's Trey Amos or bust in the draft. So it's good to see that you had a first-round grade on him from my standpoint, right?
Right. There's a lot of guys like Ben Morrison, Azariah Thomas, Siobhan Revel, Darian Porter. Those are all guys in my mind you could really interchange. That's like where the cream of the crop is with this cornerback room once you get out of the top 2 guys.
100% agree. I have Amos at 8. You have him at 4, but I could realistically see having him at 4. There's not a big difference between him and Siobhan for me. I wrote down Trey Amos as a tortilla chip. He's great alone, but he's even better when he's got a CB1 up. You give it some queso, some salsa, you're adding on top of that, but you're getting a very versatile piece to that room when you draft a Trey Amos, in my opinion, as well. So I see it very similar as Josh on that one.
No, and I like how you guys are able to kind of put them in tiers. So, Jake, if you were to look at Josh's coloring, right, because the green there represents, I believe, a round 1-2 tier.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's my simulator. I've already forgotten what the color codes are. But when you look at the Morrison, Thomas, Revel, you have the players in the same tier, just in a different order, Jake?
Basically, Ravel I have as a first-round grade, and then basically Darian Porter through Trey Amos are second rounds, and then we're getting to the third with Benjamin Morrison for me, which obviously, if he didn't have the injury, would be in that same tier as well. So we can go into that. And then Jahdae Barron, just like he mentioned, first-round grade, and I 100% get that as well. He's so versatile; it's almost hard to grade him for me personally, because I don't know what he's going to do at the next level. He played like 500 snaps out wide. He played 200 snaps in the slot. He could play safety. He could do a lot of good things for you, and he's good in run support. The biggest thing for me is I feel like a lot of his big plays that came out this past season were almost luck than skill. It's like he's running up to the ball carrier and then somebody else hits him and then he just drops the ball into his lap. Or it's these super errant throws that shouldn't have been coming his way that just fall in his lap. And every single time I turned it on, I was like, okay, he made the play, but it shouldn't have been there to begin with. He didn't cause that to happen. So that was my biggest thing with him. And I know I'm gonna be on the low one on him. And maybe that's the Oklahoma bias. I don't think so in this one. I try to be unbiased with his rankings, but I could see the realistic possibility where he goes in the first round and is a great, great player for the next decade for somebody.
It also felt like a little bit with all the Texans defensive backs that I was watching this year, all of their interceptions and their turnovers really came off of luck in some sort. You rarely saw one-on-one plays where a guy's actually making a play on the ball in the air or actually forcing a fumble on his own and getting the a lot of it was a lot of team ball for Texas this year. It was really weird. I relate with that with Andrew Makuba heavily. I have a hard time putting him in my that's how it was with Texas film this year. It was really interesting how they got their turnovers.
Hey, and if you get 11 guys that can do that for a team, hey, kudos to you, because you're going to have a damn good defense. But you have to have those playmakers out there, and he made the plays, but I don't know if he was the one making the plays, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
And isn't there I don't want to say it's a saying, but you'll hear when you're watching games, the turnovers aren't I don't want to use the word predictable, but let's say reliable. Just because your defense got a lot of turnovers in 2024, that's not going to carry over. There's more luck to turnovers. So just because you got them in 2024, you can't expect to get them in 2025. Do you guys kind of buy into that kind of logic?
Yes and no. There are people that are very good in doing what they do and turning the football over, but I would almost equivalent it to like sacks and hurries and pressures. Pressures are more reliable than sacks are. Batted passes and getting in the area, that's what you want for a corner. And then those turnovers will in turn come your way eventually. And maybe they never do, but it doesn't mean you're not in the position that you're needing to be. I know we go back and talk about maybe the best corners in this past decade and this last 2-3 decades even. You can go Darrelle Revis, Jalen Ramsey. These aren't turnover merchants by any means. They just lock down their side of the field, and then you have to go to the other side. And that's all it is. And you know that into the game plan going forward. It's just, and I know a lot of fans look at those metrics and go, hey, Kevin Byard had 8 interceptions in 2000. Doesn't mean he's the number one safety in the league either. And I love Kevin Byard, maybe my favorite tight end of all time, but it doesn't mean he's elite in that regard. It's just he was in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
And that's why teams are looking for these long, athletic, man-to-man press coverage corners, because everything in the NFL nowadays is centered around keeping everything in a cloud and letting the quarterbacks beat you underneath with yards after the catch. If you get a corner that can legitimately shut down one side of the field, you can rely more on man coverage. Then you can start to do a bunch of different shit with your defense and actually throw the quarterback off with scheme. That's why those guys are so highly regarded, even if they have like blemishes on their tape of missed coverage, a double move, getting to them, etc.
So, Jake, you have Siobhan Revel at 4, and you said that was a true first-round grade for you.
Yeah, he's just at the bottom of that first round for me. And this is a guy that is just an uber athlete, and he's had the ACL surgery, and that's very unfortunate. I know maybe his rookie season isn't the best for him as he kind of comes back and gets that cutting ability. But when it's you see his tape, and even when he gets beat, he's never beat because of that speed. Yeah. He runs down receivers. And when I see that, there's very rare types of freak athletes out there that you go, okay, this guy's going to survive at the NFL, even though he didn't play for the biggest school in the world. And this is a guy that didn't have a lot of scholarships coming out based on his grades, and he's not a school guy by any means. He majored in fucking football. He's really good at football. And I'm betting on that because it's almost this Caleb Farley renaissance for me. Caleb Farley coming out, had that back injury, did not turn out, obvious bust. And Siobhan, I think he has a safer floor than that because I think he will play, and Caleb Farley just didn't. But when you look at that and you go, man, this guy's got legit low 4.3 speed, and he's got size and length on top of that. And you put him out there on these top wide receiver ones in the NFL. This is a guy that can shut down, just about anybody and everybody on the right play. And if you strike iron while it's hot, you're going to get a freaking stud. And this is a guy, if I was Bills Mafia, this is a guy I'd be pounding the table for if he's there, because I would love to have him on my football team. And I think he has the scheme versatility just about to do anything and everything just based off that athletic traits he has.
Okay. And then, Josh, your next corner is Benjamin Morrison. So what do you like that you have him at 5?
It's always so interesting seeing the conversations of like a Will Johnson or a Ben Morrison or a Siobhan Revel, guys that have to suffer through injuries, and their draft stock's kind of cloudy from where it's supposed to be. You're not just basing it off of their straight tape. And you have to put that into consideration with Ben Morrison as well. He wasn't the uber athlete compared to these other corners when he was healthy, and then he deals with the hip injury, and it really plagues him throughout the whole season. So you have to take that into consideration. But for a guy that doesn't have that long speed to really carry stuff deep down the field, he makes up with it with his use of hands, his run support, his man coverage ability, short to intermediate. Against big body receivers like Marvin Harrison last year, yeah, he's not the fastest guy in the world either, but he's able to stay in the hip pocket, and his IQ and his ability to turn his head at the right time, it's a real trait that you look for in cornerback prospects. He's well built. He's trusted on an island. If he ran a 4.39, for example, this would be a no doubt first round prospect. But that long speed is going to be the thing that hinders him, as well as how quickly he comes back from the injury. That's the thing with Will Johnson and Ben Morrison. I'm more confident in that they'll be able to come back quicker than Siobhan Revel, even though Siobhan's had all this time to come back. Siobhan faced lower level of competition. He's more, I don't know how intelligent he'll be able to pick up shit quickly in training camp and being able to start week 1. If he starts to get stuff under his belt like a month into the season, then you got a real damn problem on your hands, because he is the best athlete in this corner class, and it's not even close. But that's what keeps Benjamin Morrison a little bit more higher for me. I saw the tape. I trust him more in man coverage, even though he doesn't have the speed that most of these other corners do.
Okay, and then Jake, you said that Darian Porter is the first corner that you have listed that's not a first round grade.
Correct. I have him in the second round, probably a high second round pick for me personally, but he's kind of the same right of a Siobhan Revel in that he is just a uber athlete. He's got a lot more experience though, and when you turn on his tape, technique might be a mess at times. but he just gets the job done. And a lot of the times it just doesn't make sense. He's part of that my man catch no balls club because he just doesn't let the ball get to the receiver. And he's a former receiver turned corner. And I think that shows a lot of the time. Change of direction ability, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think he has plenty of long speed, and he has great size, great length. I would like to see him improve in the run game. He just gets washed out a lot. This is a guy that you're going to be playing on the perimeter, though, for the most part, but he's still got to be able to fight through those zone or those screen passes, those tunnels, and all that good stuff. But I don't think that's why you're drafting him. You're drafting him to get you off the field on 3rd and long. And I think he does a very good job at that. And I don't know. I see him getting in the right system. I know he's an older cornerback prospect. I believe he's 24. He might be close to 25 come draft time. But I think this is a guy that you could get in the early 2nd round and is kind of a plug-and-play starter for you for the most part. And I think you're going to be pretty happy with that. So he's not the perfect prospect. This isn't a guy you're bringing in to play man coverage. And I think he could play a little bit of press zone. I don't – it's very sloppy, though. And I know the recovery speed's good. I don't know if it's that good. This is a guy you can play on off zone, and I think he would thrive in a cover 3, cover 4 base scheme. And you just put him there, plug and play, and I think you've got a rookie starter from day one.
Okay, and then you have Kobe Bryant at number 6, Jake. So 2nd round grade?
Yes, 2nd round grade. And I know this is the one we're looking forward to getting into. I've been a big fan of Kobe ever since 2023. Got to watch one of his games live, and he just kept jumping off the screen. And I was like, okay, I have to remember this name come seasons in to go back and watch more games and see if this isn't just a flash in the pans type of thing. But God, he's just got it. I think this is the best mentality of any player in the draft. We talk about confidence. This guy is oozing it. When my player comp for him is Conor McGregor, because he believes he is the best fucking player out there every single snap. It doesn't matter. You want to wrestle? I will wrestle. We're a strike, we're a strike. And going back to that MMA comp, this is a hand fighter. He might be short. I think he's 5'10" on a good day, but he's got good long arms, and he just competes. He gets out there, even being a $170, a $180. He's in the run game every single snap. If the ball is in the play, he is by that ball, and he is driving on it every single time. And he's laying the boom, and he's throwing every single bit of that 170 pounds at you every single time. But this is a guy I'm super excited for. I know people are going to look at him and go, okay, put him in the slot. I want this guy on the edge. I want him on the perimeter. And then I want him to learn, and then he's going to shadow your number 1. Because you're going to put him in the slot, and he's going to go, okay, I got you there too, and I'm going to follow you there. And I'm going to beat you there, and I'm going to hit you every single fucking play until you don't want to catch the ball. But that's why I like Kobe Bryant, and I wanted to move him higher, and I where he's at, I'm happy with him at 6. And I think middle to early 2nd round, you could draft him and be very happy, but I don't think you have to either. I think he's going to be in the 3rd round. He might be there in the 4th round. And then you get the steal of the fucking draft.
Yep. So first of all, I think, Jake, you and Bill Sparks can form the Kobe Bryant fan club. So almost everything that you said, Bill Sparks, if you are still listening, it's like your inner self was coming out of Jake's mouth. Because when we did scouting reports on Kobe Bryant,
he possessed me.
He used different words than you, but it was the same energy. It really was. Couple of points of clarification. Kobe Bryant at the combine, did he measure in at 180 pounds?
I believe he was smaller. I think he measured at Shrine, if I remember correctly. He may have measured the combine, but I believe he was somewhere between he was between 170 and 180. I think he was 176 or something.
They got him at 5'11" and 175, but he's more on the 5'10" side as well.
Okay. And then do you guys think that 175 is what he played at, or do you think he's bulked up since the offseason?
He bulked up.
He bulked up. Yeah. He was smaller.
Yeah. So again, and I knew all of that from the great scouting report that Bill Sparks did. Right. It's not like I'm memorizing everybody's numbers. I just remembered that they were saying, like, will he even hit 170? I think is what some of the comments were when we covered him in November.
He got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bill Sparks, again, if you are listening, I know that from listening to you. Okay. That's like, I learn all this stuff from listening to you guys as you guys talk about the players. So Josh, you have Azrae Thomas at 6. What would it surprise you for Thomas to go to round 1 to a team like Green Bay?
No, and I was literally thinking about this earlier in my head. I cannot get the picture of Azrae Thomas being a Los Angeles Ram out of my mind, even though it's cheeky to do because they drafted Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. But for his development, year 1, putting him in that ecosystem and that environment with his God-gifted abilities as well, 2 or 3 corners are going in the back end of the 3rd round. It's just pick and choose which one you want. And then the team, like the corners that fall into round 2, those are going to be the high demand guys that probably don't fall out of pick 40. So Azrae Thomas fits in that mold for me.
Okay. And then, so I guess the next one on both of your boards, ironically, is Quincy Riley. You both have Quincy Riley at 9. Oh, but before we do that, Jake, you have Maxwell Hairston at 7, so you're pretty high on him. You want to talk about him for a minute?
I know people have kind of drove up Maxwell here very recently, and I really kind of got to his tape as well here pretty recently after hearing, I forget who brought him up initially, and I was like, okay, I got to go check that guy out. And what he brings to the table, very similar size to almost like a Kobe Bryant, in my opinion. Maybe a slightly better, I won't say slightly. He is a better athlete. He's faster at least. What he doesn't have is some of that dog that he brings to it, but I think he does have some scheme versatility. This is a guy that you can play on the perimeter, I believe, pretty early, and technically he's decent. I think this is a guy that you can't look and go, this is where he's going to fail, but at the same time, I'm not sure what he does that makes him stand out to me. So I think he could improve in a couple different areas, but at the same time, this is a cornerback too. We talked about, I forget who I comped to a tortilla chip earlier. He's like a pita press. The same thing. He can travel. He can be that CB2 for you, but he's not a guy that you're going to eat just plain Jane. You're going to add something on top of it. You got to make it that flavor. So I think he could be a decent surprise early 2nd roundish pick. And this is a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if snuck into the bottom of the 1st round maybe. But I do like his tape. Just something, maybe a guy I'm not amazed by.
Okay, and then Josh, you have Quincy Riley and Maxwell Hairston. So go ahead and cover Hairston and then rewind to cover Riley.
Yeah, you can put both of those guys in the same mold Jake was talking about. CB2, travel around with your wide receiver 1, shadow him around the field. But it's what you're looking for in those guys that separate whether you have Riley higher or Harrison higher. I think we'll give Harrison a little bit more credit. His long speed's incredible. We saw at the combine, it was on full display. And that really does translate over, especially in a cover 3 scheme when he has to travel with posts deep down the field or streaks. It's easy speed to him. And his instincts, when he has to play a flat zone coverage, if the ball's thrown to his way, that thing's going for 6. And that's been shown multiple times on tape. It's not a fluke. So his natural instincts and coverage do translate over. But for me, it's run support questions and how healthy he'll be coming into the season. I also don't see him as a perimeter guy. A thing with me, if you're going to be a smaller cornerback, you got to be able to make up with it in technique and just overall strength and tenacity on the outside. You're susceptible to jump balls. You're going to be forced inside at the next level just because of your height. But Maxwell Harrison has the speed and the theoretical deep cover ability to hold up on the outside. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes and what teams use him as. There's talks about him being in the late 1st. I just hate for a team to rely on him as a CB1 in the Deontay Banks role and then absolutely ruin his development because he's asked to do way too much in his body and frame. That's why I trust Quincy Riley just a slight bit more. He has that same versatility. I like him on the boundary a little bit more, but I know he's going to be damn comfortable in zone coverage. In the nickel, zone coverage, IQ and instincts for being that smaller nickel type. He fits runs really well. He's just a well-rounded corner, kind of like a Trey Amos. Doesn't have that upside as a Sharon Rebel, Azariah Thomas, or Ben Morrison. But when you're looking for starters in round 3, Quincy Riley immediately pops to my head as one of the first guys that should be taken after the top 64.
Okay, so Josh, remind me on your board on the left, is Darian Porter the only second round grade, and then Riley and Hairston are round 3?
Well, Quincy and Riley are rounds 2 and 3. They sit in round 3 in my big board. But Darian Porter, I don't see a world where he goes in the first round just because of how many corners there is to choose from. But I don't see him slipping to the third either because of that size and that length. And if you're talking about a ball of clay, Darian Porter and Siobhan Rebel fit that mold of a ball of clay you want to develop on your football team because they just have the God-given traits that translate really well when you're talking about press man guys. But like you alluded to, Jake, his press ability, his feet are really sloppy, his technique, the whole 9 yards. But he's just a natural athlete, and he can make exceptional plays on the ball when they're outside of his frame. He can really reach back 180, just make interceptions and plays on the ball that you should not be able to. And Rebel has that speed, more length, more overall potential and upside, but he can't make plays on the ball, in my opinion, like Darian Porter can when they're thrown his way. So he's in that mold of, if you want a ball of clay and you want your CB coach to develop a monster, draft one of those two guys.
Okay, and then Jake, where is the round 2 and 3 cutoff on your list?
So my round cutoff, we are there. Quincy Riley is the first I have in the 3rd round. And it's such a hard eval for me because I remember watching him in 2023 playing over there with Jarvis Brownlee Jr., who had a great rookie year in his own right. Yeah, Quincy Riley was the better prospect that year. And what he was doing, and if he even replicated that, we're talking maybe a top 50 pick because he bullies you at the line of scrimmage. And when we're talking about just closing that separation, I think that's what you're getting out of him. Maybe need to work. His change of direction could be improved upon. And I'm looking at this last season, and that could just be due to that ankle. But when we're talking just straight line speed, he's got long speed for days. And I believe he was coming out of South Carolina, and he was like a high-end track athlete. Won like South Carolina track athlete of the year or something like that as a senior. So this is a good athlete, and it's very unfortunate what happened this past season because it was not good on tape. So this is me more betting on the traits that I saw 2 years ago than what I saw this most previous season. But this is a guy that if you do take the shot on him, this could be a legit CB1 for you if it hits. But even if it doesn't, I think you get a good rotational CB3/4 for you. You get a good depth piece. Yep. He could be good on special teams, but this is a guy that when it's 3rd and long, maybe this is when you have to allow your CB1 to travel into the slot and follow somebody. This is a guy you could put on the perimeter and not have to worry about. So you got upside, but you also have a safe floor with Quincy Riley, in my opinion.
So I like that. Let's pause for a second. So we've got a few people in the audience. Brandon, you're here every night. Texans fan. Don't hold it against Jake. He's a Titans fan.
It's okay.
Andy, Broncos fan. So you guys want to take a moment, introduce yourselves, and let everybody know where your other content is.
Sure thing. You can follow me at Glory Day Sports on Twitter /X. That's going to be the biggest place that I'm posting for the most part. Working on some writing gigs potentially coming out here soon. And then go check out the Morning Glory Show over on YouTube, live every Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, with me and my co-host, Jonathan Miller, and the gentleman that turned me on to Quincy Riley, B. Will. He's the one that put him on the radar a long time ago. So go check them out as well. And come join us in the chat as we talk all things upcoming drafted this next month or so. But yeah, check me out there.
Cool. Josh.
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at juice_T23. We're at that time of year where boards are starting to get solidified and rankings are starting to become official for a bunch of guys in the community. You're going to get the full Google sheet of my board coming up here in about 3 weeks. It doesn't just give you the big board where I have prospects ranked in their round grade, but it also gives you the evaluation piece that I put into it, putting a number grade alongside all the categories I have per position. So you can go in there and not just see that I have a guy ranked in a certain spot. You can go see why I have him ranked in that certain spot with my grades and my algorithm, how I was able to come up with a formula this year, which was the first time I've done something like this in my scouting process. So it's not going to be perfect, bear with me, but it's going to give you a general idea of where these guys should be going come draft day. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But otherwise, we're here every Monday on the NFL Draft Fanatic podcast. Big shout out to Jake. Big shout out to Jim. Make sure to follow everybody. And we're going to be here for the long haul.
Cool. So you can follow the channel at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. It is the same on YouTube and X. We have daily draft content. This is our second podcast today. 2 more Tuesday, 2 more Wednesday, 2 more Thursday. 32 GM mock draft on Friday, another podcast Saturday, another one on Sunday, and then we repeat the same thing the following week. So the best thank you can do is to subscribe on YouTube. That is a great way to help us trend in front of more people, so please and thank you. Also, today was a unique day because a Jets podcaster has now said he wants a draft professor on his podcast during the draft cycle. So Dom had it. Dom is about to have a big announcement. I was on the podcast today, and then Drew is taking over for that spot every Monday. So, from my standpoint, when I created Draft Professor, I said that will probably happen, but I thought it was going to happen 2 years from now. I didn't expect it to happen this fast.
They're starting the block.
And that doesn't happen without Jake and Josh, right? Everybody doing their 1/5, right? You guys do Mondays, somebody else does Tuesdays, etc. So I'm humbled and thank you to both of you for helping everyone, right? This is like the rising tide is lifting all the ships. So thank you.
I think when you look at it and who's putting out draft content, nobody is putting out more and better draft content on a daily basis than NFL Draft Fanatics and the Draft Professors and everybody over there. You can go to PFF, you can go to ESPN, you can go to NFL.com, but they are not putting out more draft content than the Draft Professors.
And this has been consistent for the beginning of college football season all the way through to now. It's only just grown and expand more and more and more. So the consistency has been there with us, and it's going to continue to translate over into nutballs that want to do summer scouting and get into the process before college football season. So this is all year round. And like Jake said, it's the consistency with us. We give you stuff every day.
We have 3 draft professors that are in Europe. Literally, it is growing. It's just absolutely, it blows my mind, actually. And then I also want to point out that this episode is actually when we see 2 cornerback boards like this, where they're different. That's what I like. So the draft to me is about 32 teams with 32 very different player boards. And I love how Jake and Josh are able to talk about their boards, and they can even talk about the players on the other person's board, but we're not slamming the other person's board or anything like that. And this to me is why is Barron in one spot versus another, or why is Kobe Bryant in one spot or another? These are the conversations that need to be had, because you shouldn't be surprised if Jake's number 14 corner, Jacob Parrish, goes before, I can see him going before Benjamin Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It just depends on what scheme your team is running.
And this is all what the scouting process is about. Jake's going to have a different board. I'm going to have a different board. Every scout that works inside an ecosystem, when they're not grading the players in their region, if they have their own personal board, it is different for every single bot, like every person. But the ability to be able to have good conversations and figure out strengths and weaknesses and find out who you're comfortable taking in that spot. It's like we're working in an ecosystem or an environment that would be professional related. That's how they would handle different boards and difference of opinion, instead of just shutting one opinion out or telling them they're wrong on somebody and just going forward with a prospect just off of what they think instead of taking in other people's consideration as well.
Yeah. So, Jake, do you want to cover your 12, 13, and 14, which would be Dorian Strong, Noel Williams, Jacob Parrish? Because Josh's board goes to a second page. But before I jump to that, I was going to have you cover the last three on yours.
Yeah, I was looking at his other page just to see if there was any correlation between us. But let's go and start with Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. This is a guy that was highly regarded coming into this season as one of the top corners in this class, and may have had – I don't think he had a bad year. He just didn't show what he could have done, we'll say. And this is a super safe pick for me. And when we opened up the show, I talked about you could get a press man corner in the fourth, fifth-ish round. This is Dorian Strong. I think you can play him on the line of scrimmage very early, and I think technically he is savvy. And I think he has maybe not the athletic traits that you would want from him, but I don't think he's a bad athlete either. This is a very high floor, low ceiling pick for me. I think what you're going to get out of him is what you're going to get out of him. But at the end of the day, if you can insert him into this press man scheme, I think you're going to be perfectly happy with him with a day 3 pick, and you might get a potential starter out of it, a potential CB2 with Dorian Strong. And this is a guy that you could potentially argue moving him up slightly higher. When I look at my board, that's a pretty hard drop off from him, from a Jahdae Barron, a Benjamin Morrison, Quincy Riley, but he's just a step below them. And I'd be perfectly happy if he was taken above them.
And then Noel Williams and Jacob Parrish?
Yeah, let's go with Noel because he's very similar in that same right. Another press man corner that you can play out there, and had a very good season this past year. Very strong at the line of scrimmage, and I think he does a lot of good things in run support. And then Jacob Parrish, this is like that, not the first guy, but this is a slot-only player for you. But he's short. He's got some arm length, though. I think it's not sub 29, if I remember correctly. So it's not like huge, and some very good feet. And he's thick. I think he's around 200-ish pounds, and I believe that's a true 200. And I think he's a pretty decent athlete. This is a guy that can help in run support for you. What he did at Kansas State, obviously played in the Big 12. He played in a lot of those spread schemes, and he did very well. And I think he played primarily as a boundary corner for him. And he's going to have that little bit of time to move into the slot. I think he had a decent amount of slot snaps. You got to at least watch him there and see what he can translate to. And I think he could be a very good slot defender for you. And if that's something that you scout for and highly regard, there's arguments that he could be in the top 10 of these guys. It's just a position that he is solely only going to be able to do that for you. So he has moved down my board. But if you need a slot defender, Jacob Parrish is your guy.
Yeah. And we did a 4-person cornerback episode. So I think this is only the second cornerback big board that we've done at Draft Professor. The first one had 4 people, which included James Foster, Sam Teets, plus Newt and Owen.
By the way, if you haven't checked out that episode, go check that out. It was a real damn good episode.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But one of the things that fascinated me by that, right? So I have a lot of respect for all 4 of those gentlemen, as well as for the 2 of you. And if we were to line those 6 boards up, and each of you had 15 corners, I think at least 3 corners on each board were different. And the orders are all over the place. Like, so even with just 4, even with James, Owen, Newt, Sam. They're 15, they're top 15. The orders, once you got beyond the top 2, were completely different. And every single one of them had 3 corners that none of the other 3 guys had. Right? Like, it was fascinating, right? Because, and you guys are showing that again here. You have to pick your flavor.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference between on Josh's board, the difference between Quincy Riley and Maxwell Harrison isn't that high. And Jake has pointed out that the difference, I think, between Porter and Amos isn't that high. Right? So it's just a matter of what are you looking for. So this is the remainder of Josh's board. So Josh, do you want to kind of go down and talk about them a little bit? And then Jake, feel free to chime in because some of the names are duplicate there. But Josh, go ahead.
We'll skim over Parrish, Noel Williams, Dorian Strong. He hit on them all. Those top 5 guys you see in my cornerback group, those are all my if they fall out of the round day 2, those are my top 5 guys I'm going to get in day 3. Those are the guys I would trade up for theoretically. Everything that Jake hit on all 3 of those prospects are awesome, right on point. Parrish is going to be more of a nickel guy. Noel Williams, I love his ball skills, his instincts, his play strength, his ability to be tough at the line of scrimmage. And Dorian Strong, like you alluded to, was top of the cornerback class coming into the year. A little bit of a down year like Quincy Riley, but still a guy you can absolutely bet on with the tape in 2023. Throw Zy Alexander in there for me. He's not going to wow you with athletic ability or speed, but technically sound in man coverage, whether it's off or press. Good in zone coverage. Even though he doesn't have the speed to cover vertically, he still stays in phase and is able to make plays on the ball. Solid run defender, really underrated just because he's not the uber athlete compared to these other guys. Upton Stout is a personal favorite of mine. That's a guy, if you want to talk about an undersized corner translating to the boundary, that's a guy I think that can do it with his IQ, with his speed. And for being so short for a cornerback, quote unquote, he's still 5'10", I believe, bordering on that line. He's able to make plays on the ball in the air when he's in those drops, deep zone coverages. Something I really love about Upton Stout. And he brings it in run support as well. Kind of like in that Kobe Bryant mold. Less weight on his body, but does not show in the way he attacks run ball carriers. Justin Whaley was a recent watch for me. I like the potential of Justin Whaley a lot. I want to move him up the board just a little bit more. Really underrated in my mind. Just doesn't have the upside compared to these other cornerback prospects. I'll keep alluding to it, but I really do think this is a depth piece at the next level, and he could be a starter year 1 in my mind. Za Frazier fits the mold of the long, athletic, lanky cornerbacks that you have to bet on the traits and develop at the next level. Think the Tariq Woolen-esque. He's not going to have that quick jump like Tariq Woolen, but a guy you draft in the 5th round, 4th round, and you put in that mold of develop and turn it into a long, freaky speed athletic guy that can cover man-to-man. And then Mello Dotson, Kobe Bryant, and Jalen Smith all fall into that role of you can play them on the boundary. I like them in the nickel a little bit more. I think these are solid starters for you as well. I keep going back and forth whether it's Kobe Bryant or Mello Dotson for me. I would take Kobe Bryant's mentality 10 out of 10 times with any of these cornerback prospects in this draft. Don't get it twisted. I love the way he plays the cornerback position. I just think Mello Dotson is more secure on the outside. And if you're talking about guys, nickel versus boundary corners, I think there's a lack of boundary corners once you get into round 4 and round 5. So I hold Mello just a little bit high because I think he can stick out there a little bit more. And Jalen Smith is Hail Mary sports guy, a guy I'm not fully there on with, but I do see the upside in Jalen Smith. Does have the splash plays in production and does have the frame to support and run support. It's just being able to develop the consistency for me for Jalen Smith. But these are the guys, if they fall out of day 2, these are going to be the top 10 guys in my mind that teams are going to attack in rounds 4 and round 5.
Jake, do you have anything on any of these guys?
Yeah, so it's funny. My next player off after the 4th round, my first 5th round player, we'll say, was Zy Alexander. Just because he's so close for me. It's just his athletic testing came out here very recently, and he's not fast. He's got good length, but he's still slightly framed. And I just don't know if he has enough to hang out at the NFL level for long term, or at least give you significant snaps. But I think technically he was very good over there at LSU this past year, and it took him a long time to get there. And we know LSU corners, they have a knack of making it in the NFL. And then I have Mello Dotson as that next player off. I agree with everything that Josh did say. He's got a much better frame than Kobe does, but you just don't see that dog in him. You don't see that disciplined asshole with grit. You got to get that DAWG out there. And then my last one was Upton Stout. Would have had a 5th round grade for me. Another pure slot corner for you that gives you a lot of fight and has a knack for finding the football as well. But those would have been my next 3.
Hey, Josh, can you do a little bit more on Za Frazier? UTSA is a smaller school, right?
Yeah.
Well, so, University of Texas San Antonio, right up the road.
Yeah. So I'm working with Scouts Eye View. I'm covering everybody in the South region. And when we're talking about day 3 prospects, this might be my favorite in the South region, just because you can bet on the height and the length, and he makes up with it in technicality and man coverage. The level of competition man-to-man isn't there, but I got him listed at 6'2", 5/10", 190 pounds. So you could add a little bit more weight to that frame, but I think his athletic mold is perfect on the outside. It's somebody you can bet on the traits. That's what I'm banking on. I like his ball skills. He has really good play speed for his size. He won't show it in a 40 testing, but when you're talking stride to stride, running downfield on a vertical route, there's nobody that can outrun him, at least against who he played, and translating to the NFL. There's only a couple guys I think that can outrun him at the next level. So I'm betting on that. I like the toughness he showed as well. His use of hands press technique, I think he could get a little bit better, but with that length and with that size, with that frame, you got to bet on that at the next level. So it's a lot of betting on Za Frazier, but I really want this outside boundary corner class to be better than it is. So I'm going to end up picking and choosing guys that I think can develop into quality starters at the boundary outside and holding them a little bit more higher than slot guys at the next level. There's a lot of guys you can categorize in that slot role at the next level. And it's going to be interesting rounds 4 through round 6, how many of them get taken and where they get taken, because a lot of them could be starters. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you did that on Za Frazier, and then just general observation. So I'm very macro in like some of my analysis, but on average, 34 corners get drafted every year. Mm-hmm. You can go to Draft Tech, look it up. You can check my math. It might be 33. It might be 35. I'm going with the average is 34. We just covered about 19 of them. So we've only covered 50% or just over 50% of the corners that are going to get drafted. And nearly every team is probably going to bring 3 undrafted corners to training camp. So we've only touched the iceberg on, let's say, who the top corner prospects are. But your team is going to be bringing a lot of corners to camp. And as I'm looking at the list, and we're 3 weeks before the draft, I think, or 4 weeks before the draft. I think the only ones we didn't do scouting reports on, that we didn't have coming out of summer scouting, were Upton Stout and Za Frazier and Jalen Smith. Mm-hmm. Those are the only ones that, like, on the initial list that everybody was covering in like October. Those are the only 3 guys that we didn't have on the radar then. So, Justin Wally, I think, is the only. I'll also give a shout out. I think when we did midseason scouting, we may have had a day 2 grade on him. So, but I don't know that I've heard a lot of people talking about Justin Wally from Minnesota that much.
It's just because of the pre-draft process for him. He didn't go to the Shrine. He didn't go to the Reese's Bowl. He didn't have that showcase at a college all-star game. He went to the Combine, but nobody was really paying attention to him. He ran a 4.4 at the Combine, looked really loose in his hips. It's a guy you got to go back to the tape to. He makes splash plays. A guy you can bet on to be in the right position at the right time. I like his mental makeup. It's just getting that consistency down with him. But a depth piece nonetheless at the next level.
Yeah. So this was a pretty good corner show, and we did that in under an hour. Yeah. That's actually impressive for us because we all like to talk.
You got this down pat. We've been doing this for long enough.
It's like we've been doing this since October.
Close to it, yeah.
But hey, we are gonna close the podcast down. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow. For Jake, Josh, the 51 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow.